Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome back to Illinois Rising. I'm Pat Hughes, filling in for the great Dan Proft, who's taking this afternoon off. Joining me is Brian Timponi. And Brian, more big news. Obviously, we're getting closer and closer to the primary, so more big news keeps coming out. And Denise Rothheimer, and for those who follow the program, we've had Denise on before. She is a person who filed a complaint against State Senator Ira Silverstein that he treated her with a level of sexual misconduct while she was trying to get his help in passing legislation that's near and dear to her heart on violence prevention. And then, of course, her complaint was, slow walked, and ultimately it was determined when there was a big blow up that Silverstein acted inappropriately to her. We mentioned this previously when we talked to Josh Griffith. Well, this week, Denise Rothheimer joined Jeanne Ives, obviously who's running against Bruce Rauner in the Republican primary, at a press conference to demand that Jeanne Ives' ethics bill be passed in the General Assembly. And Ives' legislation would require that accusers, like Denise was, receive a receipt when a complaint is filed, notification of an investigation, a summary of evidence, and a report of decisions made during an investigation. It also gives the accuser the right to testify at hearings and expedite the process. All perfectly reasonable things that seem to be part of American due process, and certainly what we want to do to make sure we get to the truth and go from there. And the interesting part about that is not just the soundness of the ethics bill and Ives' position, the soundness of why Rothheimer, given her circumstance, would want to promote it, but also that Rothheimer said of Ives that she is, meaning Jeanne is, the only champion for her and stood with her since the beginning. She stood with Denise since the beginning. Now, since the beginning was a long time for Denise. Where was Bruce Rauner? Where was Mike Madigan? Where were all the Springfield people that let this get swept under the rug for 3 years while there was no legislative inspector general?
I don't think there's any issue in Illinois politics that exposes cowardice amongst the legislators more than this one. It's a layup, yet yet people are afraid. They're afraid of the skeletons in their own closets. They're afraid of criticizing the people who fund their campaigns. And this is, you'd think, kind of a very simple one. Hey, staff the legislative inspector general, give people their due process, be responsive. Don't put these things in a drawer and hope they go away. But we can't get anyone but Jeanne Ives to stand up and do the right thing. It's really remarkable. It is remarkable, and it's not. I think there's a lot of people on the left who'd be like, well, we need a woman in office. Like, look, we don't need a woman in office. We need Jeanne Ives in office. Well, we need a person in office in Jeanne Ives, because there are women, like we touched on with Josh Griffith before, Noreen Hammond, right? She wants to hold on to her power, so she's not protecting fellow women against these types of allegations and the culture of what's going on. And then we've got the circumstance on the other side with Mike Madigan and what happened with sort of one of his high-level political staffers accused for sexual harassment. Ultimately, he was let go, and people are calling for his resignation. Ives has called for his resignation. Other people have called for his resignation. Where in the world is Bruce Rauner? You've got the sexual harassment problems during the time he was governor. He did nothing about it. You've got the Quincy Veteran Home. People are dying in Quincy Veteran Home. He did nothing about it, and he's saying, hey, we did everything correctly, right? He's declaring to the world, hey, I'm not in charge of the government. Mike Madigan is in charge of the government. At what point, and I think it's mostly because people don't know, at what point do people say, this guy can no longer lead the state, much less the Republican Party, in advance of the primary? Well, the fact that he isn't using this as an issue against Madigan is indicative of one thing. He feels like he's vulnerable on the issue. I don't know particularly where or how, but that explains Jim Durkin and Bill Brady as well, who were asleep at the switch. They didn't want to make this an issue, just like Madigan didn't want to make it an issue. So they don't want to criticize Madigan because they don't want Madigan criticizing them for being hypocrites. And look, for Bruce Rauner to not be attacking Madigan on this issue, again, also remarkable, but quite telling. Well, and it's so fascinating to me, right?
So is this just a cover your behind for everybody involved? We're all complicit. Basically, we're all complicit. We don't know what someone's going to come out and say about me next, whether it's Durkin or Brady or Ron or Madigan, and we just need to brush through this, have BS sexual harassment training. Oh, we have training now, so we're all good, right? And tell people that, and introduce legislation 3 years late that has nothing to do with the great legislation that Ives is introducing that can really make a difference. Like, is that what it is? Is it just, I want this thing to go away? If the collateral damage is women and young women working in state government or otherwise, then that's the collateral damage so that I can hold on to my seat of power.
Well, that's what it's really about. Is look, they know they want to ride this storm out. That's Michael Madigan has been criticized on all kinds of things over the years, and he knows that as long as he holds on to power, he can't lose. And so that's the case here as well. Look, these people know that giving a clear vetting, a fair vetting to Denise Rothheimer, to supporting Jeanne Ives' bill would take away power from them. It would maybe give power to some other independent authority. And that's the last thing they want. They know they're vulnerable when that happens. So, no, they are trying to hold on to power. That's why the Democrats are backing Ira Silverstein after those awful text messages and Denise Rothheimer's complaint. And that's why now you're seeing even left-wingers like Sarah Feigenholtz and Will Guzzardi start kind of closing ranks and helping Madigan, because they realize that if he loses power, things would be worse for them, not better.